I know how to do it here. You don't need me to give you instructions, but let it loose. Calls come in, we'll take the calls. Caller to be succinct, or otherwise I'll cut them off. Cause we're interviewing you, not the callers. You know, and sometimes they forget. Hey, welcome Buffalo, Western New York, and Points Beyond. Conversation with Jim Anderson. And if you're looking online, man, you see a full house in here, and it's beautiful. And it's gonna get hot in here. And what you need to know, you can join us in the conversation because it's a very important one. And we're going to be talking about the 33. And if you don't think you got skin in the game, you need to listen in because this is still in the moment of political shakeup, realignment, and the wave that led the way before we got to this point is still on point. I'm just going to let you know that's how it goes. So, you saw on my post, I had India Walton. I know everybody been saying, where's India Walton? She right here. She been here. She been paying attention to things going on. I often think if you want to know where India Walton is, call her. Go visit her, write her a letter, send a postcard, do a press release. Hi, India, I'm looking for you. Like to talk to you. Anyway, you know what I mean. She ain't been nowhere but right here with her finger on the pulse, and not only here, elsewhere where her work is also being done. Now, with that said, we got a full house. You probably see it online, but I'm going to turn the mics right on. First of all, I got to say hello to Austin. Austin been holding it down, him and Murray Holloman, and I'm back, and it ain't that I forgot to hear. I'm just kind of a loose wire this morning because I feel real good. We got a juicy topic. And I'll shut up, and we're gonna go. We're gonna have Austin say hello. Definitely.
Good morning, Buffalo. It's good to be here today. I'm just gonna start the introductions for everybody, but I have just some quick things I want to say regarding. We have some big things coming up for the youth and development in our city. We have a chess tournament coming up on Saturday, January 27th in the Downtown Central Library, ran by Coach McDuffie, and they're looking for a trophy sponsorship. This is what we talk about, pouring into our youth, so let's allow them to be able to put on and allow them to have success and something to strive for, as well as work that's being done over on Grand Street at the Push Center with Devon M. Some great work over there that I'm getting partnered with in order to help, like I said, pushing our community forward. And regarding last week, some of the promises that were made that weren't fulfilled have been fulfilled. So I want to say thank you. Shout out to St. John's for that specifically. But I'm doing well today. Like you said, we have a full house. We have a lot of people in here with a lot of different ages, views, and just different perspectives coming to this issue that's going to be befalling Buffalo, whether we want to or not. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Miss India Walton. How are you doing today? And as you introduce yourself, we can just move down the line as we go to the interview.
Sure. Good morning, and thank you, Jim and Austin, for having us on to be able to really not so much plead our case, but to be able to make sure that the public is well informed, because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions going around and misinformation. So I'm just here to get the record straight, and I'll pass it over to Marcia.
Hi, my name is Marcia Ladiana, and I'm a home owner. I've lived on Humboldt Parkway for about 35 years, and I've also worked about 33 years as an environmental engineer, 29 years of those in the field of air pollution. And I've reviewed the plans that the DOT has put out there, and I have many grave concerns.
My name is Matt Deering. I'm a member of the East Side Parkway Coalition, and I, like India said, I'm here to try to cut through some of the cloud of misinformation and frankly disinformation that's been put out about the project that the DOT is proposing, and as well as some of the misinformation about our group and what we're striving for.
Hello, my name is Keenan West. I'm a resident off the Humboldt Parkway. I'm just here to put my invoice on it and speak about it here today.
Hi, this is Betty Jean Grant, community activist. I'm here today to listen and to learn and to record this for history.
Hey, with that said, I'm gonna give the mic right to you. You got it, India.
I think the first thing that I want to say is that we can disagree without being disrespectful or disagreeable, right? And I think that in Buffalo, when you oppose systemic oppression, people take it very personally. So I want to say that Eastside Parkways Coalition honors the folks at Restore Our Community Coalition who really laid the groundwork for this. However, when we're talking about $1 billion in taxpayer money, it's not one single group that gets to make that decision. The community should be consulted. And I think that contrary to popular belief, I am a stakeholder. I own a home on Eastwood Place off of Humboldt Parkway. So like, it's not that I'm just a rabble rouser. I have skin in the game. I'm locked in for the next 30 years into that house. And I want to make sure that whatever project is in my neighborhood and in my community is done properly and is done to the best of our ability. We have a once in a lifetime opportunity to get this right, to repair a lot of past harms, and we should do it that way. It's not always about the path of least resistance or what is politically expedient, but do the hard work to make sure that we are really repairing and restoring our community to its original glory.
And to piggyback off that, like India said, there was an interview I know that was conducted here, I think in this room over the weekend. And in my opinion, it was a rather stunning display of chauvinism and disrespect. You know, if people come here and present our own research, our own data, you know, I think that's something that should be commended, particularly two highly accomplished women like India and Betty Jean. For them to sit here and have fingers pointed in their faces and to be shouted down was hard to watch, but unsurprising. You know, we're a group that doesn't have government crafted talking points. We don't have high paid PR consultants. We're, you know, grassroots as grassroots gets, small g, mind you. So I just wanted to put that out there first. And I hope some callers call in and have some thoughts about that, as well as some valid questions about the scope of this project and the goals of the Department of Transportation. Because regardless of what the name of the project is, the DOT's goal with this project is one thing and one thing only, which is to maintain the existing flow of traffic through the existing corridor. This project is fundamentally a highway repair project, and our community is receiving a cap as window dressing, essentially, in order to prioritize the needs and desires of white suburbanites who fled this community some 60 years ago, and allow them to continue to bypass it as they come from Cheektowaga, Tonawanda, Amherst, Williamsville, and Clarence, and go downtown to then earn money that they take back out of our community.
If you'd like to add as well, you can.
I reviewed the plans that the DOT has put out. They put out September 12th of this year, and there were thousands of pages. And I determined that the contrary to what they said in the report, the air pollution at the portals at Dodge and Sydney are going to increase. CO will increase 138%, and PM2.5 will increase 40%. So the people living, working, going to school in those areas will be exposed to higher pollution than they are now. The other thing that I realize is that all the emissions that are in that report are calculated. They're not measured. They've never measured anything in our community. They've never looked at what the cumulative effects of all the pollutants are on our people. They tell us our air is fine to breathe, but people are getting sick and they're dying. I mean, we have the highest asthma rates in the country, very high low life expectancy rates. It's ridiculous. And the other thing that I noticed is they're removing 250,000 square feet of concrete that contains asbestos from the walls and the bridges. And, they're going to be cutting this, pounding it, cracking it, dropping it, crushing it, releasing asbestos into our environment. And the other thing that I noticed is they're going to be blasting bedrock down 5 to 20 feet below where it is now. And when they blast the bedrock, they're going to be vibrating our homes. breaking our foundations, or cracking our walls, our chimneys, our roofs, potentially harming our water lines and sewer lines, gas lines. We don't know. They don't know. They use words like, we don't anticipate, we don't expect, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And then they say that if it does happen, we'll determine whether it was caused by us. And then we'll have our contractors fix it. We don't want them to fix our houses after they damage them. We don't want them to damage them. The other thing that's going to happen is when they blast bedrock, they release toxic gases, including radon. And the blasting, this is very, very hard bedrock. So they're going to be cracking the bedrock, releasing radon into the soil. It's going to enter our houses through the cracks that they make. And then it's a silent killer. You can't smell it, you can't see it, and it kills you. It gives you lung cancer over time. And asbestos does too. Asbestos will enter our homes through the air, on our shoes. And once you ingest it or inhale it, there's a possibility that you get mesothelioma, which will kill you. The other thing that I noticed, okay, and the construction is going to last 4 to 5 years, maybe longer. Constant vibration, driving piles into bedrock, pounding, drilling, jackhammering, all kinds of stuff, heavy duty equipment, dust, noise for 5 years. They're going to be removed. The expressway is going to be made wider, so that the tunnel is going to encroach on our homes. And then they have, beyond the tunnel walls, they have these utility rooms for putting out fires, communication, mechanical stuff, pumping stations, things like that go right up to the curb against our houses. So when this is all done, we're going to be driving over the tunnel. Humboldt Parkway will be over the tunnel, at least partially. And our homes are going to be sitting right next to a tunnel. What is that going to do to the value of our homes? Who's going to want to buy a house 20 feet from a tunnel? It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Not to mention that they sort of like snuck in during the public comment period that they are claiming eminent domain.
Yeah.
So while they say that they don't have to take anyone's property to, have the easements to do the work, they don't anticipate doing it. Like you said, they use very vague language that can then be walked back later on. So eminent domain is going to be in effect. It's probably going to impact the property that people own. We know that properties are going to be damaged. They're using high explosives in the middle of our neighborhoods. But I mean, I think that if nothing else, this is a short-sighted and rushed plan.
Wow. Man, it sounds like they're blowing up the neighborhood.
There's something else that I want to add.
Go ahead. We got a caller waiting for you, but you
Okay,
can.
so this green cap that they're putting on,
Mic closer to you.
the park light cap that they're putting on, that they say is mimicking Olmsted's Parkway. Well, though they're planting trees on 3 feet of soil that has no access to water. It's a ridiculous thing that they're saying is going to replace Olmsted's Parkway. It's ridiculous. And on top of that, there's a 6-inch section below the soil that contains a thin concrete layer, drainage mat, insulation, and a membrane on top of the tunnel cover to prevent water from going into the tunnel, breaking down the cover. So that all that stuff breaks down in about 20 years, maybe less, we don't know. They're going to have to remove the entire park and to replace that material and possibly the cover to the tunnel, because it could be deteriorated or damaged by roots or water or whatever.
Well, I can tell you with what you shared so far is enough to, in my mind, community. I mean, it may not have been called yet, but we may have to do a show of force in the street and get prepared to disrupt and block and make demand. I don't know where our politicians are on this, but as we go forward, I know
it's
you'll
pretty
speak
easy
to
to guess
that.
where our politicians are, Jim.
Okay, so caller, you're on the air. Welcome. Can you turn that up? Okay, wait a minute, caller. Go ahead now.
Yeah, this is Ron, and I am a property owner in the affected area. I don't live on Humboldt, but I own property between each area, between Humboldt and so on. I'm old enough to remember the 33 when it was installed. I was young, I heard the power drivers going in. When it was truly a parkway. And a couple things I'd like to say. One is, I don't think there was effective communication, even though they're saying they reached out for community input. I'm part of that community, and the first time I heard about it was when there was a public hearing that was announced at the end of 22, and I actually attended all the public hearing sessions and expressed my opposition to.
Indeed. Let me push you to your, let me push you to your question. If you have a specific question.
Yeah, my specific question is, can you explain, can anyone there explain the difference between what they're saying was an environmental assessment versus an environmental impact statement? That's my question.
That's an excellent question. So from what I understand as a layperson, right? An environmental assessment, the EA, is a very basic surface level, right? It takes less time. There's less data collected. An environmental impact statement is a more comprehensive study that's done over a longer period of time, and it not only looks at the current conditions, but also the long-term impacts that, of the project. And what has not been done is that there has not been any comparison, right? We have data on what the cap will look like. We do not have data for option 10 and what the environmental impacts of option 10, which is the restoration of the parkway, would be. And also, like we're saying, like, compare our air quality to the air quality on Bidwell or Chapin, not South Buffalo by the 190. If we live on a parkway, if there will be trees, the air quality should significantly improve, not get worse. And in this project, the air quality is getting worse. Not to mention, there's no plan for maintenance. It's $5 million a year to maintain the cap. There's no who's gonna pay for it, right? The state is handing the land over to the city. The city doesn't have money to take care of it. They're like, Olmsted's gonna do it. Olmsted is not gonna do it because they're not funded sufficiently right now to be able to take on that work. I mean, this project is just rife with problems, with uncertainties and unclarity, really.
And a point, Jim, about what you said about it being rushed, and I also think to Ron's point about a lack of community input, there's a reason that this project is being rushed right now, which is there's two things. So first is that when Donald Trump was president, federal air quality standards were lowered. So the DOT is relying on a Trump-era EPA standard that states that essentially worse air quality is perfectly acceptable. What the DOT also says is that the air quality right now in the neighborhood is within the federal standard, as though that's okay, and that the air afterward would still be within this raised federal standard, which arguably is already too high, even if you were to go back to the Obama era.
True.
Second, the other reason that they want to push this through quickly is because the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, the CLCPA, will go into effect once, of course, as many of these government organizations do, once a board is appointed to create the regulations for the CLCPA. This project, if they're allowed to break ground on it before those regulations are laid out, will be allowed to be grandfathered in as a pre-existing project. However, the project as stands right now violates fundamentally the spirit of the CLCPA because it does not improve air quality, drive down the number of traffic, or do any of the things that the state has said are its goals for the next 40, 50, 60 years.
Wow. We got a caller, but when we come after the caller, I want to hear you weigh in on what you're hearing so far and what you're thinking so far. Cool?
All right.
We cool. Caller, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Lisa Rice, and I am a resident of Buffalo, New York. I had just started following the story, so I'm getting myself more up to speed. I do agree with the language being vague and the ambiguity in the language, is so our communities could be negatively impacted even more. So I have a question of, are we allowed to hire our own independent studies to come in and conduct their studies to get us the information that is needed with very clear language and very specific language. That way we can speak from a more empowered standpoint, and we can take that information and further, galvanize our community so that people know that they need to show up more.
Yeah, so a part of the reason why I'm so proud to be involved with the Eastside Parkways Coalition is because we do have people like Marcia who both live in the neighborhood and have expertise to help us synthesize some of the data that already exists. But we're also working with some students at the University of Buffalo. And I know that, Saturday, the host of that show said several times, oh, well, you're going to believe a master's student? Well, I mean, there's a reason why they call them master's students, because they're beginning to get a mastery of their area of expertise, which in this case is urban planning, and environmental planning. So we do have experts around the table who are using their own personal capacity, our own money. We're all volunteers. There's not a benevolent rich white person that's bankrolling this, contrary to popular belief. It's just a bunch of folks who care. So what I would encourage you to do is that we meet every Thursday at 5:30 at the Development Grider Center. It is open to the public and everyone. If you want to come in and find and see what information we have, and offer up your ideas about how we can galvanize our community and make sure that we get what's just and what we actually deserve.
You got you.
I don't got too much information about it. I just came across it the one day working. I don't like too much the idea about it, how they presented it so quickly, so rushed, like they were saying. Not too many people was there to hear about it, speak about it. If I had enough time myself, I would have opposed against it too. It's not benefiting nobody from this. I don't see no benefits from it. It's going to back up a lot of traffic for downtown to get to the other side of Buffalo. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. I don't have too much information about it so far, so I'm just here listening, gathering as much as I can. But I do say for right now, I don't like it. I don't approve of it.
And I do have a question, right? As another young person, right? We use words like eminent domain that caught me off guard. We use other words which are true and are accurate and are in the paper. But just for the sake of the listener, right? If I were to say go in the kitchen and make some hot water, that's subjective. We don't know what that means. So just for the sake of the listener, if somebody can, just in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, can we just get an overview of the project and of some of the things? I know you said eminent domain and some other words that I think may be useful, right? Because we can ask for information, but if we receive the information differently, it's going to be hard for us to be on the same page. So can somebody give us just a concise definition for us to then move forward from both the listeners and for some of the people in the booth as well?
Yeah, so eminent domain is a tool that the government uses to be able to seize property, right? Because whatever project they're doing is supposed to be the greater public good, right? So they can take, I doubt that they would take someone's house. That would just be a political disaster. But I mean, even if they need 2 feet of your lawn, right, it's still the land that you own. So there is the potential for them, if they need the space, to seize parts of or seize people's property to be able to move the project forward.
So to give an overview of the project, as briefly as I can, the whole thing's very convoluted, frankly, which is why it's hard to speak about it briefly. But essentially what the project does is the 33, the Kensington Expressway right now is the concrete, the bridges, the walls are about 20 years past what's called their end of life. So they're 20 years past when they needed to be replaced. So that's a point that I know India made on Saturday on the show, which is that the highway is going to be fixed either way, right? And the cap, I also believe, as India said, may in some ways actually save money on future, maintenance and things like that. But regardless of that, the highway has to be improved. So because people in the community have been working so long and so hard to reconnect this community, the governor, after 5/14, decided that finally the east side of Buffalo deserved $1 billion and came in and said, well, we'll improve the highway, but we'll give you this cap too. I know people have been in this community for years saying that this thing should be filled in, that it's killing the people who live here. But the traffic that comes in from the suburbs is more important than the people who live here. So what we'll do is we'll maintain the highway, but we'll give you the cap so that you stop complaining. There was talk about filtration of the exhaust that would be coming out. The DOT has now said that there is no need to filter the exhaust, which means, once again, the same amount of pollution is going to just be pumped with jet fans deeper into the community in concentrated areas, including at MLK Park, a place where our kids should be able to go and play in clean air, in clean green grass, not, essentially at the end of a fire hose of carbon monoxide and other pollutants. So that's kind of what the scope of the project is. Our group, Eastside Parkways Coalition, is saying that it's great that the state has presented us with $1 billion, and the governor has come here, frankly, and said that she now cares about this community, and she gave us $1 billion as leverage.
There's a couple pushback. Well, I think they meant to be pushback. One is saying that as far as the pollution side, it's the west side neighborhood by the Peace Bridge with the idling trucks that's causing the quality air problem. They also put, there are no experts in your group. There are no scientific researchers in your group either.
What do they believe an environmental engineer is?
I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering, a master's in environmental engineering, and I'm a PE.
Well,
I have a license.
Yeah, I want to
I think
offer
I'm an
it up.
expert.
I
think I'm an expert.
Yeah, and I wanted to offer it up because I think things like this play to trick the people. The people that live in the neighborhood know the flavor of their neighborhood. And when they raise a concern, whether it comes to be validated or not, you got to do the proper things of looking into it and being, if it's something good for them, you got to do the proper things of making sure that they understand every square inch, nothing is changed in the back room, that they have a chance to enhance if they desire to do so. And I don't think people look at that. I think when it comes back to pushing on the system, folks like yourselves are viewed as razzle-rousers and folks who are always got something to say. Well, damn it, you need to say something when something is going on. Other people want to just see something and they want to say something, but they want to say it in the corner and they want to say it about the people who are stepping out broadly, sounding the warning to this community that is too stiff and too much in a Pied Piper walk with politicians who are leading them off a cliff. And I'm so glad to be back in the midst of the flavor that homegrown here in the voices like yours that are pushing back. And all the who like to weigh in and send in and throw bricks at people like this, throw one at me, because I'm different from them. I'm nice, but I'm just telling you that, look, stop fighting against change. It's too many people that got into a little healthy position, getting more money than they deserve. And now they want to laud it over somebody like they know better than, and they don't want nobody to move them out of their comfortable seat. You need to get up and walk away. You're going to be moved. That's not them talking. That's me. And I'm going to start calling out some of your names. I'm going to shut up because we got to go to a commercial and call in. Y'all call back. We'll get you and go.
Give me 2 seconds. One thing is that you're not an expert and you're not a scientist is the same thing that Hooker Chemical told Lois Gibbs in Love Canal.
Okay, great.
See that? No history. All right, y'all. We'll be back. Don't go nowhere.
Yeah, I gotta call in too.
Yeah, that Katrina Martin.
Was it her? Oh,
yeah,
man.
she liked to throw curves.
We are still live.
We still alive.
I don't mind it being loud. She done cast out, in different ways, in unique ways. And I'm just like, I'm tired of those who ran along with the group while it was good to run and popular for them and wanted to be lifted by the group, but then turn around and sell out. If you're scared to go forward, if you're scared to stand in the light, then get the heck out of the way and quit throwing bricks. If you got something to do, go find your little soapbox and get in the corner and talk out loud and lead some people somewhere. I'm sick and tired of y'all sneaking in the dark. And if you want to come on, send me an email and I'll bring you on. We'll talk about it on the air Because I like to talk directly to you and you talk directly to the community.
If you could give me some information on the East Side Parkway Coalition, like how people can connect to you, emails and things of that nature, if someone can write that down and just send it, I'll put it on the live here for you.
You doing all right?
Yes.
Yeah, because your wave, you know, in all that's been lifted up, I'm thinking to myself, I bet all the dirty plans they're planning ain't thought about how they're going to create some jobs for you. They ain't thought about a whole lot of pre-work that could be done by a lot of people who ain't working. Say again?
I want to say something briefly.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Oh, no, we're not back on there, but you can do both. You can speak, you can talk now. We on air. I mean, on streaming. And on there.
I'll wait.
Okay.
Well, I think for the live viewers, something that's important is if people can't attack your argument, they choose to attack you instead.
This is true.
Hey, we're back. You listen to Conversation with Jim Anderson and, of course, Austin Vaughn Martin. And we're in house with a crew that represents us community. It's about us. That's what this whole show is about. And that's what today's program is about. So let me just shut up and give it back. Well, I'm gonna give it to you, Betty G.
I'll be very brief because we got a call on the air, on the line. You talked about environmental impact assessment and environmental impact statement. So I tried to research, see what's the difference. Environment impact assessment generally talks about the project, the current project, and what is planned for the current project, whatever it is. Environment impact statement is a little bit deeper. It goes into the current project. It goes into the past, if there's a past for that project. It goes to how long that project has been there. What's the effect of that project on the community? Has anybody been made better or worse because of it? Now, I know that Humboldt Parkway, there's a lot of sick people in those houses on Humboldt Parkway. Have they been assessed? Have they been assessed to see with damage caused to them because of the expressway that was put in over 60 years ago? So environment impact statement is true because it tells us if the project as it has been was safe or was positive. It also tells us what's the best thing going forward. And so if you have a problem with carbon dioxide and you're going to put a tunnel that's going to increase the carbon dioxide at the terminus in the beginning of the tunnel, then you're going to create a problem that's worse. Also, this past Saturday, we at Women Warriors did a door-to-door of every house between Dodge and Sydney Street. We talked to the homeowners. My daughter spent 3 hours in the street talking. She talked to 12 homeowners, and not one homeowner said they are in favor of that tunnel. It tells you something. Not one homeowner out of 12 said they're in favor. And there's a lot of vacant houses there. There's a deep repair. So that issue of this tunnel is going forward. Who's it going forward for? Certainly not the homeowners who have not been talked to, and certainly not the community, and certainly not the east side of Buffalo.
Caller, you're on the air. Caller, you're on the air. Welcome.
The caller has.
Okay.
The caller has left.
Sorry about that.
What I want to talk about with the project is this is a situation that we came across in a lot in Buffalo, right? We're at a moment where we can make a big change, right? Where a lot can be done either positively or negatively, depending on how we as a city prepare for it. And what I constantly keep asking is, how do we prepare a city for change? We've talked about where the project is right now, but can we now get more talking about where we want the project to get to and how we as a community can get there, especially regarding different people, right? If I'm someone who's maybe a little further away, I can see how this may not seem like it's my problem, right? It may not seem like there's skin in the game, but can you guys explain how as a city, we can move in a way that works for all of us and benefits all of us through this project?
Well, Austin, again, I think that's a great question. And your point about how, like, this isn't my issue. Unfortunately, the idea that, quote unquote, this isn't your issue is something that's echoed not just by people, frankly, in the community, but even some of our elected leaders. I've spoken to some of our elected leaders, not the ones who are pushing this project, who say, we all know that this is not the real solution, but this is Crystal's issue. This is Tim's issue. And it's true that once a legislator secures funds for a project, they're going to do almost anything they can to make sure that that project goes forward, because there's nothing that a politician loves more than to hold a golden shovel and to throw some dirt on something and get a photo op, for the next campaign mailer.
There was on a past show, I can't remember who mentioned it. They said, well, the money that is being spent can only be used on this project.
That
is not true. The money can only be spent on transportation projects.
Yes.
That much is true. There's $55 million from the Federal Highway Administration. The rest of it is state transportation money. Now, we don't live in a state, to my knowledge, that says transportation money can only be used on highways. There are some states in the United States where they can only use transportation money for highways. New York State is not one of those states. So one of the solutions that we've presented is to take roughly $200 million of the allotted money, which is what it would take to fill in this portion of the 33 between Sydney and Dodge, and recreate the parkway, do our part on the east side, use the state's money to give the east side back what was taken from it. And then we can use that other $1 billion to improve the radial streets that would then bring traffic in from the suburbs to downtown, and also would frankly force them to drive through what were once vibrant Black commercial districts, creating foot traffic that makes it easier for somebody to get a new loan to build a new Black business on one of those streets.
Yes.
You could also use that money to create a rapid transit system, some sort of train or light rail. There are a couple different plans. Citizens for Regional Transit has one with an airport extension for the current for the current subway. You could also there's a plan about the Beltline train that runs around the entire city of Buffalo, where the track is already there. That's also a possibility that could be done for even maybe less money. But there is a way to use this money on transportation, on what it's allowed to be used for, and do more than just make sure that people from the suburbs can get from the suburbs to downtown and back within 15 to 20 minutes at rush hour.
Not to interrupt, we do have a caller waiting if the caller would like to be on the air. Caller, you are on the air.
Yes, okay, thank you. My name is Carl, and I am an economist by trade. And one of the things that I like to do is I'm very process focused and very data focused. So for this project, I went back and took a look at ROC's reasons for this project. And you can find that on their website. And then what happened on September 12th, the environmental assessment came out, and I took a look at that assessment. And the 2 points that I just want to make. First, the air quality. When you take a look at what their data is telling you on that environmental assessment, and also on an appendix C7, the air quality technical study, is that they're going to be putting out a 300 meter, which is about 900 foot plume of truck and car exhaust on each end of that tunnel. Now, that exhaust is going to be blown from the downtown toward the Science Museum and also Sydney Street into the neighborhoods. One of the problems I'm seeing is that plume is within 500 feet of the Charles Troop Medical School, and it's also within 500 feet of the Science Museum and also MLK Park, which is a very heavily used park for that community. So that exhaust is going to be blown back into those locations. Now, what I did is I took a look at the mitigation, what the DOT said these are mitigating factors to kind of help reduce the pollutants. The first thing they say, there was a technology called smog stop, which is a treatment that they place on walls that absorb
The Post-it notes, right, Carl? The Post-it notes for the walls?
Right.
Of the automobiles and trucks. The problem with that technology is it needs sunlight to work. And there is no sunlight, as far as I know, remember, there's no sunlight in a tunnel, right? Because it's covered. So it won't work, that technology will not work. The second thing they tell you is they're going to use trees to absorb pollutants, which is fine. And it does, tree leaves does absorb pollutants. But they got to remember the trees only have leaves from, say, May through October. What about the rest of the year? Okay, nothing is going to be absorbed. That those pollutants are going to be coming into the community, and some of the studies, including the Smog Stop website, says
Hey, caller, let me push you a little bit. Caller, let me push. Caller. Caller. Can you hear me? Okay, I need to push you a little. I need to cut you there because you're giving a great interview. I want to know, do you have a specific question you need to put to this panel?
You know, I don't think so. I think they're starting to cover a lot of my concerns. So I just want to thank the panel for being on here.
Right on. Hey, and thank you for sharing what you just shared, because listeners need to know they're not just sitting here whistling Dixie, and you know they got other things they could do, but this is a real serious issue. And you know, whether you live in the area or not, I mean, I'm sure some folks drive through that area, and look, if they do it to one side, they'll do it to another as long as we allow it. I think I said it earlier, people, you better get ready, not only maybe to stand on the ground there, but we need to go talk to some of these lazily, shiftless, statesmanship-less politicians that call themselves representing us. They misrepresent us. You tell them Jim Anderson said that, not the people in the studio. Jim Anderson called the politicians in Buffalo lazy, shiftless, arriving to the scene too late, selling out, copping out, and practicing too much excusiology. Get mad at me. Okay, I'm gonna give them. Go ahead, go somewhere.
It sounds like to me, if you can't hold your breath for half the year, you're gonna be in trouble. It sounds like if you're near the highway. But before we get into the next caller, like I said, I want us to just start thinking about some solutions. Why I specifically invited young persons, because like you said, this issue that involves all of us. And the closer we can get to helping people understand how as a community we can fix this issue or stop it before it's too late. Because like you guys said, this highway is going to be changed, whether it's with this project or not. It needs to be fixed. And so helping the community understand how we can play into helping this change happen, I think would be very beneficial, so that instead of us all just continuing to blast on our own, we can have the community support behind us as we move to make a change. But before I kind of give you guys a chance to apply, caller, if you would like to speak, you are on the air.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, caller.
My name is Brad Wales. I'm the professor who is running the analysis of the DDREA at UB. I have answer for Austin there on the how do you move forward. The best way in design is to provide options, and we have a number of options. So you can come on Friday and check that out. We're having a presentation at Elvin Grider. The other thing is that the cost for filling it in is only 1/10. And the other thing is that they can't take the money to downstate because they have to fully replace the walls and the bridges. The other amazing thing we need, Austin, is a long-term adverse health effects study. So what Marcia was saying about the current levels being okay, it's the cumulative effect that kills people. So Marcia, my question is, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how the effect of highway exhaust accumulate and eventually cause diseases.
Well, there are numerous pollutants in vehicle exhaust, which DOT did not look at, and there's something called mobile source air toxics. They did a qualitative review of those contaminants because there's less than 140,000 cars that travel on the road, which may be acceptable for a transportation project, but this is not a regular transportation project. This is a community sitting right on top of a highway who have been burdened with this air pollution for decades. And we already know people are sick. There's some of the sicknesses that are caused by vehicle exhaust are asthma, COPD, heart disease, heart attacks, lung cancer, leukemia, learning disabilities, dementia, I mean, the list goes on, and just shortened life. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, the DEC has been doing for about a year. They had a car driving around, measuring the air, the pollutants in the air, and unfortunately, that data is not going to be available till 2024 in the spring. So we will not know what those effects are. But they chose this community this is one of 10 in the state because our air pollution is so bad. And I think what they're going to show us, it is really bad. And the DOT is trying to sell us this line of baloney that our air is fine to breathe. They're lying. I mean, they're just lying. This is a big farce. They're, you know, and to talk about reconnecting the community so we can walk from one side of Humboldt to the other is another farce. They're going to disconnect us by cutting out the entrance and exit ramps at Utica Street. So we are going to be cut off from this. We're going to have to drive all the way down to Best Street. And that is going to increase. In their report, they said traffic on Humboldt Parkway southbound is going to increase by 5,000 cars a day. How is that helping us? And so what happens when you're exposed to all those air pollutants, which are hundreds, it's a synergistic effect, one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. You can't just look at one pollutant. It's cumulative. So that's what makes us sick. The PM2.5 and smaller particles that are in exhaust go right through your lungs, into your bloodstream, to your cells, and make you sick.
Yeah, good. We got another call for you, and then Matt, you weigh in on it.
Yeah. I was just going to quickly answer Austin's question. So I think the most kind of central location for the work that we're doing, and for you to learn some more when it comes to documentation on how to submit your thoughts to the DOT, the governor, your representatives, would be to go to our website, which is eastsideparkwayscoalition.org. I believe it's .org. Let me double check. And I'll make sure that we can put that in the chat. I'm sorry, it's .com. eastsideparkwayscoalition.com. So join our mailing list and then even contact us. And then someone will get back to you directly and let you know about what our schedule is for our events, as well as some steps that you can take to make sure that your voice is heard. We'll show you where you can get contact information for your elected officials. And we're going to be we're organizing right now an electronic letter writing campaign that should be coming out in the next few days. That'll make it really, really easy for more people to share their thoughts with the powers that be about this project, and let them know that we want more of this because this community deserves more.
It's caller.
Caller, you should be on.
More information is better, informed, better. My question is, what's best for the community? And my question also is, I'm told that this won't be completed until 2030. What happens to the traffic during that time? And if they can reroute the traffic until 2030, why can't it be permanently rerouted?
That's a great question. And I think that their plan to, largely narrow the 33 into a one-lane expressway in each direction will prove that what they've said, what they've publicly said about their traffic study is not really true. And I can say that with some more confidence because while the DOT will not release the traffic study that they did for the fill-in option that was conducted by the Greater Buffalo Niagara Regional Transit Committee, I've seen the study. And there should be, it's in the hands now, the study, the data itself is in the hands of a few journalists here locally in Western New York who are doing their due diligence on researching it, and hopefully there will be a story coming out about that soon. But in our estimation, now that we've actually got the study that, again, they won't show you because it reveals a whole lot of cracks in their argument, that it is entirely feasible to fill in the 33 and that the streets can handle it. We did conduct at ESPC, we conducted with the assistance of Professor Wales and his students, our own traffic estimates that, we don't have access, we don't have the millions of dollars it takes to conduct a traffic study the way they did. So the numbers aren't identical, but the conclusions of both studies are the same, which is that Buffalo is probably the best designed city in the entire country when it comes to the roadways. Now, whether or not we've kept up those roads and whether or not we know how to plow those roads is another conversation. But the infrastructure itself, the design, is designed to handle this much and even more traffic. And the studies that they won't let you see prove that.
Is there any value in appealing or somehow attempting to get the Secretary of Transportation involved in this to intervene? Is there anything at the national level that could be done?
I mean, we've been, in part of our communications, we have been reaching out to the DOT and Secretary Buttigieg. We intend to continue to do that with the e-action that we're planning to the electronic letter writing campaign that I mentioned before. But another point is that, I would, for as much as different representatives say this isn't their issue, look, Congressman Higgins is outgoing. Your opinions on Congressman Higgins may vary, but it's true that he had a vision for the waterfront and he saw it come through. If he could help with this, you talk about leaving a legacy. Right. You're somebody who I believe does care about the environment, who truly cares about this parkway system. You care about the history of this city. I believe we're a history teacher. You fought for the central terminal to be where we put our ammunition because you knew that would benefit the Broadway Fillmore neighborhood. You've got pull in Washington still for the next 3 months before you submit that resignation letter to Speaker, whatever his name is, Johnson, that lunatic. Between now and then, we could really, really use your help. And this would be something that I think you would be proud to do. So we'd love any federal help. Senator Schumer, like I said, the federal monies are not huge, but they're important. And, Secretary Buttigieg, I know, was in New York City a couple months ago because they're doing a subway extension. President Biden loves trains. We all know that. Wouldn't it be nice if we could use some of this money and build a new train system, a green, electric powered train system that could alleviate further traffic concerns and move us into some would say into the 21st century. Some would say back to where Buffalo was when we had probably the best public transit system in the country, when we had an electrified streetcar system. So we're certainly reaching out to any and everybody we can, and we would take help from any and everybody that we can, because we got involved because the community made it clear at those public meetings that they weren't informed and that they did not like this project. To push back on some of these charlatans online, these people on the dole, those people who are maybe part of the what I like to sometimes call the Buffalo nonprofit industrial complex. The groups that got involved, like Buffalo Olmsted Parks Conservancy, like Go Bike, they were not going to speak out on this until they went to the public meetings and heard what the community had to say. So for as much as people are saying that these rich white people are trying to use people like India and I as pawns, I think this radio appearance will show that India and I are our own people and we're here for our own reasons. We got involved because this is an issue that's important to us, regardless of what an elected official may say. India and I both ran for office because we believe in doing something, not because we want to be something. So you shouldn't be surprised that we're still out here on the front lines of this issue, trying to make a change.
Just real quick as we wrap up, we're getting to the last couple of minutes of the interview, and I want to give everybody a chance to leave a closing remark. But when we've been talking for many months, I've been in this interview booth for a little bit now, and one thing I've constantly asked is, how do you prepare a city for change? And I think you need a couple of things. I'm starting to have my months and get my feet wet. I think number one, you need a clear and concise message, right? Number two, you need a message that really hits the heart space. And three, you need a very clear ask so people know what they have to do, right? You don't expect to get off at 9 to 5 and turn into an environmental activist. So you're just tired, right? And so for those three things, what I think about when I hear this message, and as a young person, you can attest that this is true. I think number one, the clear message is I want to breathe. At my core, at my heart of heart, I just want to breathe. I don't even live that close in Buffalo. I just want to breathe, right? I want to be able to go outside and not worry about, is this going to cause me issues? Because that's not fair. I didn't even get a chance. Everybody needs air and my air isn't clean. I want to breathe. That's my clear message. Number two, when I think about the heart space, why it's important is because we all love air. If you go underwater, I promise you don't want money. You want to breathe. We all need air. And number three, what's the ask is that we need to be at these meetings. So if you could, again, reiterate the date for where we need to be at, for the people in the community that say, I want to breathe. I want to breathe. I want air. I want a highway that allows me. No, you don't gotta say it with me. You know that I was positive. If I want to breathe, if that's the message, that's the simplest as we can get it to. And Keenan, I want you to touch on it again. If that's real to you, if that's applicable and relevant to your heart space. But with these things in mind, I know we're at a time, and as we close out, just could you reiterate that date so we can all get there for the people that, like I said, want to breathe?
Yes, we meet Thursdays at 5:30 at the Delavic Writer Center. There's an event coming up on Friday, but if you want more information, you can go to eastsideparkwayscoalition.com, and everything will be posted there. And the last thing I want to say is that our youngest member is 17 years old. And I mean, this is not only an issue that matters to us, but it's an opportunity for young people to get skills, right? We put Eric up on the mic in front of the camera. He's giving presentations. Like, he's one of the most well-informed people on this issue in our coalition. So like, this is definitely an 18 to 35 issue, right? Like, the elders are going away and we are going to be left to hold the bag. And I don't want it to be us in 30 years saying, well, we should have did this or we should have done that, when we can do it now.
That'd be helpful.
I think I think, Jim, when I was on your program many months ago, I think my sign off was this, is that society only moves forward when old men plant trees that they know they will never sit in the shade of. And I think we should plant those trees on a new and fully restored Humboldt Parkway.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I feel like we got to do is it got to be advertised more somehow, some way into the community, in the stores that we go to every day, the billboards we drive by all the time. It's not talked about until the day of is presented. It's here. Last minute, nobody likes last minute stuff. But at the same time, young people, we do got to step up, because the older people's dying off. We're going to be the next generation. So yeah, you're right. Also, that 9 to 5 is going to make us tired, but we still got to get to do what we have to do. So if we could spend that hour to get our hair done or get ready to go to the club, then we could go sit in those meetings or go outside and do whatever it is we have to do to get the job done or get to the future that we want to look or want to see.
Whoa, that's the last word, y'all. Y'all heard the truth. I'm running with them while I'm still here. I want to be a shoulder. We got to say bye-bye. We out of here. I want to thank my guests. They're going to be back, because this subject ain't going to be dying. And yeah, politician, if you don't act on it, the word is out that you ain't been doing right. I'm saying that. My guests just shared some information to help me to see clearly and to say it clearly. You ain't been doing right, and everybody else ought to be mad like I am. But we're going to get you right. We out of here. We're going bye-bye. Thank you so much.